Everybody common denominator. So I caught this article today on Tariq Nasheed, and it's from the Daily Wire, and it says Tariq Nasheed attacks black pro-life advocate. She crushes him. Now, if you haven't seen this article, you can find it on the Daily Wire. I'll post a link in the description box, but I mean, this was epic. Why do I care about this? Well, don't really like Tariq Nasheed. Tariq Nasheed is one of these people who just get under my skin. Everything about him is just annoying. His whole platform is just accusing everyone of being a suspected white supremacist. That's his whole every thought that enters his brain, everything that he's about is about prejudiced behavior. Let's just look at this for a second. Let me do this. Let me just go to Tariq Nasheed's Twitter feed, and let me just give you an example, live example of okay. So this is his Twitter feed. Let me give you a live example of here. Okay, here's the first tweet. He's talking about a real white supremacist, and then he's talking about another white supremacist, and then white supremacy again. This one right here really bothers me. Jerry Jones get called out for supporting systemic white supremacy and treating black Dallas Cowboy players like $1 million slaves. There's a difference between capitalism, business, and slavery. They both stem from capitalism. One is a more extreme aspect of capitalism, being slavery. But here you have some of the, most highly paid athletes in the world, and he's comparing them to slaves. Slaves work for free. You can't compare the two. And let me juxtaposition this with what's happening with Harvey Weinstein and the the uh, the Pussycat Dolls, the band. One of the members of the Pussycat Dolls came out and said that they were basically prostitutes who also sang and danced and made some money while the other people made all the money. Um, these were white women, um, who were treated in this way. That this is an aggressive form of capitalism, capitalizing on leveraging somebody else. So Tariq Nasheed and his comparisons of everything's a white supremacy, and I'm going to get to this. I'm going to tell you why this is important because it goes back to the first article about the African woman here on the screen. I'm going to show you this, but let me just look at his feed just a little bit more here. All right, here. Ben Shapiro's suspected white supremacist site suspected. I mean, it's. Let me tell you something. Tariq Nasheed calling someone a suspected white supremacist, or what's the term he uses? I think it's something like suspected or probable, or yeah, I think suspected. I think that's the term he uses for everybody. He tries to say that all white people are suspected white supremacists. Now, let me just demonstrate how racist that is to say something like that. Is it true that there are some white people who happen to be white supremacists? Yes, it is true. That is a fact. because they they tell you, they expose themselves. Now, if someone were to say all black all black people were suspected um, criminals, were suspected uh, black supremacists, or suspected drug dealers, how would that sound? That Tariq Nasheed would say that would be racist. If Ben Shapiro were to come out and say that all black people were suspected black supremacist drug dealers, Tariq Nasheed would be the first one on Twitter talking about how racist that was. But Tariq Nasheed has made comments in the past asserting that all white people are suspected white supremacists. But you see the difference. See what's going on in Black America is that some Black Americans have deceived themselves into thinking that Black Americans can't be racist, because racism, in order to be racist, you must have some sort of institutional power over other people. Therefore, laying the groundwork, preparing the soil for people like Tariq Nasheed to make racist statements and others to make racist statements, because they don't have institutional power over another race. But that's such a limited scope of the definition of racism. Yes, what they're saying is true, and it's having institutional power and the ability to do things like that. Yes, it's something that we don't have. But to limit it to that opens up the door for black racists to make racist comments the way Tariq Nasheed makes racist comments, and he's a racist, make no mistake. But he's a retard racist, because I'm going to show you exactly. So let's go back over here to this article. Let's check the time first. Let's go back over here to this article where he goes after. Well, first, what she does is he posts this picture on Twitter in reference to Callista Gingrich, the new U.S. ambassador to the Vatican. And then he said someone made this comparison. And he posted it, basically pulling a Donald Trump. Donald Trump will post things from other people, white supremacist, whoever it is. He'll post things. I don't even know if he realizes it's a white supremacist Nazi or something. And he'll post it because it's, it might have some factual information about Hillary Clinton, one of his enemies. And then Donald Trump will get blamed for his post. But Tariq Nasheed here tries to absolve himself of any guilt in posting this comparison with this woman. I don't know why he would post this. I don't know if he has some sort of personal beef against this woman, but so the African woman, Okeocha, hope I'm saying her name correctly, this woman here, Obianuju Okeocha, raised in Nigeria. She's got her Bachelor of Science in Microbiology, University of Nigeria, Master of Science in Biomedical Science in the University of East London. After Tariq Nasheed, this is her tweet to him. She says, "The mean-spiritedness that I am seeing among American public personalities is heartbreaking. Tariq, you should be more dignified than this." Okay. I don't think that's bad to say. It's almost like she's trying to, he would probably say she's trying to shame him, but, be decent. That's what she's saying. Just be decent. Be bigger than this. Be someone. Be someone better than that. But Tariq Nasheed's not better than that. Had she known who Tariq Nasheed was, she wouldn't have bothered sending that to him. Tariq Nasheed is a product of the street. He's a pseudo-intellectual who is more dangerous to himself than he is to others. Really, his ideas are racist. His a lot of his, I mean, yes, he has some great information. I'm not going to take away from the body of work that he's done in terms of Hidden Colors. Haven't seen him, heard about him. I've learned about a few of these things in the past. It's good, but not everyone who, just because you do some good things doesn't mean you aren't guilty of some bad things as well. Um, Tariq Nasheed also wrote a book, or wrote several books about how to Mac, how to basically how to bag chicks, how to, basically teaching guys how to be players. Okay, this is some of his work. So he defends black history, but at the same time, the black present, he aids in its destruction. Okay, so Tariq Nasheed answers her back. He says, "Unfortunately, I'm not." She says, "Tariq, you should be more dignified." Tariq says, "Unfortunately, I'm not," which is true. Okay, this is true. Someone sent it to me, and I was petty enough to post it. Hashtag oh well. Just trash, just low life. What he's doing here is he's showing that he's low life. He's showing that he's a low life, classless hood rat, hood roach. Excuse me. But I have a new name for Tariq Nasheed. But this is the type of stuff that This is why Tariq is somewhat infamous, because he just has no he just lacks the proper decorum. He's not a role model for black people. He's a ghetto pseudo intellectual who who's very well spoken, but his mind is corrupt. He comes from a very corrupt mind. His who he is just corrupt. He's just a ghetto hood rat who is so hood roach, excuse me, who is so just obsessed with all things white supremacy, but and pretends to be obsessed with bettering the black community. However, all the while destroying it through his influence, through his, for instance, the tweet here. Unfortunately, I'm not. Someone sent it to me, and I was petty enough to post it. This just trash. Here the article goes on to say Okeocha tried again to be reasonable. Okay, and she's encouraging him to use his platform for something good. And here goes the Tariq. Here goes Tariq Nasheed. Instead of just saying, or just ignoring her, or just saying, my bad, I was wrong. Here he goes. He's going to go off on this racist attack now. Check this out. The first thing he turns to, listen to what this lowlife says, man. Is it true that your husband is white? Okay, this is what he says to her. Now, this has nothing to do with anything, but this is how his mind works. His mind's working in this way. He's thinking that this woman is just defending this white woman for the sake of defending a white person. See, whenever a white person is being defended, Tariq Nasheed views that black person as a white supremacist sympathizer or a white supremacist. He just calls them a black white supremacist. See, you can't defend an innocent white person, because in doing so you become a white supremacist, according to this retard. Okay, so this is what follows has got to be some of the most interesting and beautiful, one of the most beautiful assortments of clapbacks I've ever seen. I mean, just take your pick. I mean, cafeteria style assortment of beauty. Um, she says, but my parents and all my brothers and sisters and cousins and aunties and uncles are Africans, just like me. I'm not sure what that has to do with is your husband white, but let's continue. She says, then Tariq asks her again. He reiterates, but is it true? Oh, he says, but it's true that your significant other is a white person, correct? Okeocha responds, I have no husband, sir. I haven't dated since I was 21. That was many, many, many years ago, and that was in Africa. Uh, article says Tariq decided to say what was really on his mind, and then he posts this picture of her with three other white people, three white men. I see why you're putting on your cape for suspected white supremacists, though. So you see, these gentlemen here are suspected white supremacists, even though they are in her midst. They're with her. They're smiling. They seem to be cordial. They're enjoying a beverage with her. Based on your timeline, you are the professional black friend, quote in quotes. This guy is disgusting. So if you work with white people now and you're friends with them, if you defend them in any way, regardless of regardless of the character of these people, you are now a bad person in Tariq's eyes. This is who Tariq Nasheed is. He's just trash. You know, this type of logic is so detrimental to the black community. You can't think like this. You know, thinking like this is just it's so racist and so prejudicial. He's prejudiced against white people. And you can see it in his tweets and his language. Why are they suspected white supremacists? What did they do to you? What did they do to her? You know, and and then she answers. She says, those men are working for me. These are her employees. Okay. I mean, wow, this is amazing. Tariq goes on to say, I did a broadcast last night explaining how many of you women from Africa are the biggest saviors of whites. Okay. I'm not going to bother listening to the broadcast because this guy's a retard. Um, she says she'll watch it as long as there's no swear words or venom. Let me skip down here. She says, okay, let's end this little soap opera. She starts laying out her points. Number one, no one gets an award for their skin color or race. Number two, no one has the patent to virtue based on their race. Number three, this should be tried, to do tonight was to point out the level of venom in public discourse. Number four, and I was put on Twitter trial on charges of white supremacy. This is embarrassing for Tariq Nasheed. Number five, I was born and raised in Africa. I never stepped out of Africa until I was 24. She says, what is more than that, the last few years of my life has been lived in service of the African people. Number seven, I've put my life on the line and I've risked more than I thought I could in opposition to neocolonialism of my people. Neocolonialism is a big problem right now in Africa and around the world. Just a new way to try to control people and their money, their resources. Number eight, when all is said and done, I would like to point out, Tariq, that I am more African than you could ever be. Ouch. Ouch. That has got to be the burn of the century, man. People should start mailing Tariq Nasheed burn cream. Just burn cream. And she says, peace unto you. That's her 10th bullet point. And just pure genius. You know, all right, so, Tariq got burned. He got burned. There's really nothing he could say at this point. I did a video on Tariq. Well, I did a little commentary on him. The guy he's a coon in hiding. And I think a lot of people have figured him out. Everybody has an idea of what a coon is. They think a coon is, Steve Harvey got labeled a coon because he went to go meet with Trump. Lots of people have met with Trump. Doesn't mean that they're a coon. People are just trying to see what's going on in this guy's mind. Trump is kind of reckless right now. He's very reckless and just acting like a moron. But people have this idea of what a coon is, and a coon in their mind could never be a person who talks about white supremacy. Let me tell you something. Tariq Nasheed did a documentary. He was in a documentary, one of Michael Moore's documentaries. And Tariq Nasheed, excuse me, I think I've been calling him Nasheed all this time. Tariq Nasheed played a pimp. Okay, a pimp. He played the most stereotypical role, or one of the most stereotypical roles that an African American male could play in media, and that was a pimp. And he did it for Michael Moore. Now, the definition of a coon is a black person who entertains white people, which I think is such a loose definition, very, very loose definition. And, but Tariq Nasheed, who goes around pointing out coons and delivering coon train awards and making videos about coons, but who he views as a coon, is himself a coon. He's a hypocrite, and I labeled him a coonocrit. He's a coonocrit. But I had to come up with something a little bit more powerful that describes Tariq Nasheed and people like him. The people. Let me just describe him. I'm going to describe these people like Tariq Nasheed. You know, and then I'm gonna give you the name, and I'm gonna wrap this video up. I'm just gonna end it with that. Tariq Nasheed, um, he is the slick, uh, smooth talking, um, hood behavior, somewhat thug, not really fully thug, too smart to be a thug, but appreciates and uses aspects of the thug element to further his game, to further his persona, to attract his audience. Um, the and all the while being a hypocrite and a dirtbag. I've listened to a couple of his podcasts. I've listened to him hang up on listeners. I've listened to him mock listeners and people who were fans of his, who had ideas that differed from his ideas. There was a girl once. This is one of the reasons why I really can't stand this clown. There was a girl once that called up to a show, and uh, she had some ideas about dating and interracial dating, and he didn't like it, and I think he called her a bed wench, and then he hung up the phone on her. Now, Tariq Nasheed, his wife is biracial. She's half white. There's media you can see. I think he's posted it, where you can actually see where he's got pictures with his biracial wife and his wife's mother. Now, if all white people are suspected white supremacists, Why did you marry into that family? You hypocrite. What a hypocrite. I mean, the guy's a hypocrite. In his, when he confronted Tommy Sotomayor and giving him a Coon Award, Tommy Sotomayor told him to take that award and give it to his white wife, or his biracial wife, really. But Tariq Nasheed is one of these hypocrite pro-black um, hood monsters. I'm gonna call him that, hood monster. That's one of the terms. But I have a better term for him. I'm gonna let you hear it at the end. But he's one of these hood monsters that will reinforce negative stereotypes. Hence, the pimp will be rude to people, showing absolutely no decency in the public eye, who has no problem with being racist and calling everyone who's white a suspected white supremacist. That's like, like I made the earlier example. That's like calling everyone who's white, referring to black people as being suspected drug dealers, which is what the racist white community is known for. They're known for these things. This is what racist police officers are known for. They're known for making these prejudicial statements, and he's doing the same thing, the same exact thing. However, he gets to not be called a racist because he's black. And because, like I said earlier, racism must be institutionalized. It must be some sort of power structure, which is false. That's just one aspect of racism. He's practicing a different form of prejudice and racism. So, I'm about done with this commentary. I just want to say I got a new name for people like this guy, and I'm going to call them doo-doo monsters. Yeah. Tariq Nasheed is a doo-doo monster. Okay? A doo-doo monster. Common denominator.